Well, we're really excited to be here. We're here to talk about 2025 trends, but by way of a quick poll and maybe just to wake everybody up a little bit, who here leads marketing? Okay. Who here leads comms? Okay. Who here needs a really long nap? Okay. All right. All right. So, I'm sure whether you're on the marketing side, communication side, or both, I'm sure everyone is starting to think about 2025 planning. And I can't think of anyone better to share the stage with than Amy. But before we get started, Amy, can you tell us a little bit about your role, your background, and then maybe one thing people wouldn't know about you from your bio?
That wasn't in the script. Well, first of all, thank you all for joining this morning. I do know Vegas and mornings usually do not go well together, so appreciate you all coming out. I've been with PayPal now for 6 months. Prior to that, I was in the banking industry. And so Mike and I never overlapped, but I was at JP Morgan for a decade, ran communications there and was the CMO of the home lending business. Then went to Wells Fargo and now I'm at PayPal. So I have all the kind of corporate comms functions, including sustainability, corporate responsibility, social impact, and of course, communications.
Amazing.
Oh, and what someone, okay.
Oh, yeah. And one thing that people don't know about you from
You
your
see,
bio.
I tried to dodge that. I have 3 boys. They are 14, 12, and 9. So this is like the best I can possibly show up and look on any given day. Usually I'm in sweats and like someone's trying to take me out from behind. We love adventures. So we hike Camelback annually and I've gone skydiving twice. So like
Ooh.
adventures you're going to get.
I love that. So, being new to PayPal, can you share with us a little bit about how you're building and structuring your team?
Yeah, I think anytime you started a new company, regardless of your role, you're kind of just listening, learning, taking it all in, and really asking the question, would you have designed it this way if kind of the people weren't there, or the way that things have evolved over the years weren't there? And, especially for a company like PayPal, which, as you may know, over the last year, we've gone through a big transformation. Brought in CEO, new leadership team in September, actually just over a year ago. New vision, new strategy, new focus. And so when you have that kind of change at the top, really everyone else does need to change to be able to align with those priorities and that vision. And so I looked at it and there was some, changes we had to make around the edges, particularly as it relates to content, making sure that, the way that our employees start their day and what they're consuming and the way that people externally are consuming information is most effective and we're telling our story in the right way. So hired Jackie Rena here who's with us. So she's running social media and our channel strategy as well as strategy across all of corporate affairs. And then of course you've got the line of business heads and then the kind of shared services. So certainly meetings and events and content and everything you might imagine to be the case. And then of course, and I don't want to, I feel like you can't emphasize enough at all companies, it doesn't get a ton of attention, but we'll talk in a little bit. The social impact and sustainability function is just core to PayPal and to most companies. And so we have someone that runs that.
Amazing. Well, first, you've launched a huge campaign. So
Yeah.
congratulations. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's incredible. And as part of that, I suppose, thinking about 2025, I can't believe we're like a few days away from November. So I'm sure everyone here is really in the thick of thinking about 2025. Amy, what do you think are the big trends heading into 2025 from a marketing communication standpoint?
So look, I think we're going through a period of time right now, and actually Financial Narrative did a study where they found 35% of companies right now are doing some type of rebranding or, redefining their narrative. And that's up from 20%. So you see a 15-point jump in companies that are looking to either do something as simple as refresh the brand or do a complete overhaul of their brand. And for us, the timing really was now. We've got the new leadership team in place. We're coming out with a ton of new innovations. And when you think about PayPal, you might initially think, oh, okay, they had the competitive advantage at one time, still dominate number one payment provider online. But when you think about the in-store, you're not thinking about PayPal and tap to pay. So we knew that was the gap that we needed to fill. So we launched a new product and PayPal everywhere, where you can easily upload your card. You have the NFC that just tap to click, very seamless. But it was a change of behavior that we needed to instill to give people the reason to believe, like, why should they change the way they're doing that today? So again, launched, debit card with 5% cash back, which few companies offer that rich of a reward on debit. Many offer it on credit. And then needed someone to be able to help tell and amplify this story. So quite honestly, who better than Will Ferrell? Like, the funniest guy, beloved by most, if not all. And so we, went through the whole process of producing this campaign, which was nothing short of hilarious, as you would imagine. And if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to. But there's this, one moment where he's like dressed in this ridiculous yellow outfit and he goes up to the cashier. Again, we really want to emphasize the ease of tap to pay. And he just says, too sexy. And the guy just looks at him really confused and he's like, I'll take it. And then does the quick tap to pay and walks off. And within that script, there was so much improv. And you probably, as you see it, could even maybe guess where that happened. But the real kind of challenge on myself and on Jeff Seeley, the CMO, was how do we create excitement out of the gate? Because like most, campaigns, it's grabbing the consumer's attention early on. And we'll see, I'll talk about some other examples where they do that. And we went back and forth for probably longer than we ever should have. But I think we landed on what I would think is a really fun space. We wanted to do something a little bit breakthrough, different, and really challenge the limits on tactics. So the idea that we came up with was, let's just wipe our social media handle. Like, literally wipe it clean. 10 years of content gone. The reaction on people's face was a little bit like I'm seeing right now. Like, what? That's crazy. But we have a new brand. It was the perfect opportunity to force a reset to where you didn't have brand confusion of even something as simple as what the logo looked like before and what it is now, and having it showing up in multiple places. A challenge I know many people who go through a rebranding exercise face. And so we're like, we can overcome that. We're just going to wipe our social media channel. We're going to tease it with this like fun, we're going to put Will Ferrell's face on it. They're going to be like, what is going on here? And then we'll tease it with a short video, which we call Chimes. So again, you might have seen this. If not, this will all make sense once you go and YouTube it after. So we did that, and then we just let that sit for the weekend. And the ad was always launching on Monday Night Football. And so people were already starting to talk about it. He did his own rendition of Fleetwood Mac's Everywhere. And I literally can't get it out of my head now, and you won't either. And so come Monday night, the ad launches, and it was just this kind of surprise and delight moment. And then the real challenge is, okay, how do you keep that momentum going? So it was just a really fun one to work on.
That is so fun. I'm talking about resets, and at Bested, we've been working with a lot of brands going through different kinds of transition. And Amy, you have a lot of experience working with brands in transition. And for folks in this audience right now, you may also be working with a brand that is going through a period of change. So, Amy, I guess from your perspective, what do you think are some of the unique challenges that face brands in transition, or even opportunities?
The timing has to be right, and it has to be relevant to the consumer. So if the consumer doesn't believe it, you might have a quick comedic value in that spot, but it won't stick. And so, I would say, let me give you an example, something external, nothing to do with me, and then I can kind of share some experiences I've had. But one that really resonates with me is Dove. And they launched recently their Beauty Never Gets Old campaign. Dove is a product that's been around forever. There's very little you can do to innovate soap or shampoo or conditioner. But what they did, I thought, was pretty brilliant. They scoured the internet, scoured social media, and they came across a content creator called Ali and found it fascinating what he was doing. What he was doing was actually, he did a whole photo shoot of his grandmother and a little bit around that theme of never gets old, and have these like beautiful pictures of his grandmother. And it went viral. And Dove completely, took advantage of that moment in time, reached out to Ollie and said, we'd love to collaborate with you and your grandmother because she really embodies the brand. Now, a lot of brands might be reluctant because it's not a celebrity. It's not someone that has a large following on social, but social media users loved it because it was authentic to the brand. It was this real life person that lots of people could relate to, or they saw their grandmother in this individual. And so within, 1 year alone, their Instagram following, for example, not the biggest KPI you'd measure against, but one, literally shot up 60% in terms of the people that were following. They wanted to follow this person. They wanted to follow the brand and learn more about beauty never getting old. So that's one example, but it's really, important to find that moment that's relevant and latch onto it. I'll give one other example that I really love. Anyone in the audience who has watched the series Bear, the Bear?
Yes.
Okay, that is actually a lackluster showing right there. So we've got a lot of YouTube and Netflix and all the other streaming to to do tonight when you're hopefully boarding a flight. But it's like this great series, and Jeremy Allen White is featured in it. Calvin Klein approached him because they saw this series was blowing up, and they said, we want to feature you in our next underwear shoe, which tend to perform well anyway, but taking advantage of this moment in time as well. So it was a similar thing where, they put it out there. They found this moment where they had that influencer that they knew would be popular. And then of course their products, which, they were ready to like launch their new line, and they saw immediate impact. So I think in the end, it was like 74 million immediate impact dollars from this campaign alone, 10 million of which came in the first 48 hours. Wow. So, that's 10x what a normal campaign would see, relatively speaking, for something similar. So it's just, it's got to be the right time.
Yes. Yes. Timing is everything. So we can definitely keep talking because I've got questions all day. But why don't we, if anybody has a question, we'd actually love to open it up to the group. If everyone is feeling so bold as to have a question. Anyone?
We'll repeat the question out.
Yeah. Thank you. You asked who's in marketing, who's in communications, and I love the Will Ferrell example that it's like the intersection of comms and advertising as well. Oh, thank you. Can you speak to just what that collaboration with the advertising team looks like?
It's a great question. It's a great question. And by the way, this is, I wouldn't even say a challenge, but it's something that every company faces. And so the question is, can you talk about how, communications and marketing works together? And at every company, it's different. Sometimes communications rolls up to marketing. Sometimes it sits in like random functions like legal. And I say random. I love my legal partners. Don't get me wrong, but they shouldn't be ever responsible for marketing or communications. So at every company, it's different. And at ours, we literally are peers and do everything in lockstep. And that really is the best way to move forward with a campaign that is going to rely on both communications and marketing. And so in this case, I have social media and, marketing was bringing together the media. And so we literally were in lockstep the whole time. I had people on my team that were leading this, similarly with marketing. And of course, we had our agency partners. So every week, multiple times a week, because I kid you not, most people will work on a campaign like this for a year. We did this within 3 months. And even with Will Ferrell, we're talking like 60 days prior, we were shooting this. And we knew we wanted to launch it at Monday Night Football. And so we had that deadline that we were up against. So it's really a kind of divide and conquer. I think, in addition to like wanting to do something really interesting on social media, you also need to do the traditional tactics, right? So we had Olivia Colpo lined up to do a satellite media tour. We had a ton of other comms assets in place. And that really is key. You have to go to any campaign with an omni-channel approach where you're blanketing the content across every channel possible and really pushing the limits on what have others done that worked. And by the way, what have others like not done? Or, not too many people are scrubbing their social media channels when they launch a marketing campaign. So you really have to kind of push the limits. And again, every company's going to have a different appetite for this. So I understand some of you are like, it would never fly here, but it was really a nice benefit that everyone was excited and willing to do whatever it took to make the campaign successful.
Great question. Yeah. Other questions?
Oh, I think she's got a mic behind her.
There you go.
Speak about some of the challenges that you faced when you were talking to people about doing the whitewash of your social media, and then how you overcame that. Because I can imagine that was quite challenging.
Yeah. The question was, what are some of the challenges you faced when you first presented that idea internally? And I joked about legal, but as you can imagine, the first question was, how are we archiving all this stuff? Where can people go still find it? Among lots of other questions related to that. And, my response back was like, let's come with solutions, not problems. I think these are all the right questions, but there's a way to do everything if you sit down and troubleshoot together. So of course, we had to do screen grabs of everything, put it in an arc. there was a lot of back end there to overcome that. And then it was look, this is a beloved brand and, people still do identify with the old logo. Is this the right thing to just kind of wash it clean of that? And we just quickly realized if we do want to do this and we want to go in 100% and we love and believe in the new brand look and feel, and importantly, the narrative, which we believe ties directly to that look and feel, then we need to be bullish and we need to be ready to take the most extreme steps. And so, I think, again, you have to have the right leadership. You have to have the right attitude. And there was, some naysayers, but actually most people were like, that is amazing. Let's figure this out. So, it was actually, we had like 2 weeks of a lot of push and pull. And then it was quickly, all right, we can do this. And we did.
Great question.
Yeah.
So my question would be, how do you see the difference between B2C and B2B in Marcom? Do you feel the marketers or PR people are different there? If someone would come from one field, will you be willing to hire for the other?
Yeah.
Or like if it's someone from B2B, what you be looking in this person to find to make sure they will excel in?
That's a phenomenal question, particularly with a brand like PayPal, where our merchant partners are equally as important as our consumers. And so the question, just for those that didn't hear, is how do you think about B2B when you're going out with a campaign that might seem largely B2C? And so the answer to that is really, we would not have gone out with that type of campaign if we didn't have the right products in place for our merchant partners. So we had just launched this new Fastlane experience. So today, how many people, if you're on a site that you don't shop on every day, fills out the whole profile and creates an account versus guest checkout? So if you are the guest checkout person, raise your hand. Exactly. So 60% of people on sites they don't normally shop on select guest checkout. And that experience is clunky for a consumer because you have to go through manually enter everything, manually enter your payment information. PayPal came out with, for its merchant partners, a Fastlane product for that, where you hit guest checkout and all of a sudden the pay with PayPal appears. You click that, all your information is already saved. You literally validate, yep, that's me, that's my payment I want to use. You hit enter and you purchased your product. So again, finding an experience that's really clunky for customers and making it surprisingly simple is what all brands should be thinking about. And for us, the merchant experience is so important. We're not helping our merchant partners if we're not thinking constantly about ways to improve their conversion metrics. And this really did that. So we very strategically the month prior came out with our Fastlane product and then aligned with our PayPal Everywhere launch so that we had done a ton of marketing and communications to merchants leading up to PayPal Everywhere so that they felt like, okay, for customers, this is going to be as beneficial for merchants as it is for customers. If we hadn't done that, they might have said, oh, okay, it's just a flashy campaign for consumers, but we're still left with the same challenges we had, whether with PayPal or just in general leading up to it. So that was absolutely a top consideration as we thought about the campaign, but more holistically, our strategy. Yeah.
But your team is the same.
The team is not, I mean, it's the same. It's all part of my team. And every week we're meeting and talking through things. So yes, my head of communications for our small business and also our large enterprise, same person, was in lockstep and hip to hip with the head of consumer on this whole campaign end to end. Yeah. And you have to have that. If they're both operating separately, going and doing their own tactics to launch their respective products and not thinking about how do we thread the needle throughout, it wouldn't have landed as well with our merchant partners as it did. Great question
in the back.
Hi, I would like to get your thoughts. For someone just starting out in a career in marketing, how is it for you? What would you advise me?
Yeah.
What are the things to look out for, basically? Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because I know you have lots of experience helping people grow their careers. I would say two things. First is take risks. It's, and I'm probably an extreme example of this. My kids at this point, if I told them they were moving, they would say, okay, have fun. We're not coming. We've moved, 4 or 5 different times for opportunities, and we've always really placed a lot of value in community. So what they've come to appreciate is we have communities in everywhere we've lived: Washington, D.C., Columbus, Ohio, now Summit, New Jersey, Westchester, New York. I don't even know where the 5th was. But the point is, put yourself out there and take risks. I'm amazed at the number of conversations I have, particularly with interns who they don't have kids to think about and other, elderly parents or other constraints, which are totally natural and which sometimes prevent people from moving. I'll have a conversation and they'll say, I applied for this internship, but I really want to be in New York. And if I don't get it, I might not take it because I want to live in New York City. And I said, well, a lot of people want to live in New York City, but if you get that internship in Columbus, Ohio and kill it, I guarantee you'll have the opportunity to transfer. And why create artificial barriers for yourself early in your career? Take risks and be the person that everyone wants to work with. Raise your hand on projects that aren't even yours. Those are the people that I hire because they're the first ones that are top of mind and who have added value in so many ways that you want on your team. Of course, I'm never going to hire someone that's not qualified. But more times than not, it's not about the qualifications. It's about that EQ and that willingness to just lean in and put yourself out there.
I was going to say, I think I say this to all my young besties, as we call them, which is we put a lot of pressure on ourselves early on in our careers to say smart things. And that's really intimidating and quite hard, actually. So one thing that I say is ask curious questions. Whether you're in a meeting or you're interacting or you're here at a meetup and you're networking with other people, is you don't have to sound smart. Actually ask it questions like, what are the goals? What's our strategy? Who are we trying to impact? How are we going to measure success? How are you measuring my success here? How can I add more value? I think coming into interactions with coworkers, managers, wherever you may be, asking curious questions, one, gives you so much information that you can learn from, but also shows the other person that you're interacting with, wow, you really are interested in not only your career, but about the business or this particular project. So I always say, have your list of 10 curious questions ready to go. And I think that helps you in any situation.
Really nice. Yeah. Good question.
I think we might have time for one more question, and then we do want to leave some time for networking.
Right. Great. Hi, thank you both for being here. In the beginning, you mentioned your reference to report by the Lovely Financial Narrative. You do some great work.
They do.
I'm curious what other trends you may be seeing that you might have taken note of that could be leveraged at PayPal.
Yeah. I would say the other big one, which I glossed over briefly at the beginning, but I think is really important to brands, is the social impact strategy. Consumers want to align with brands that are mission driven. And there's actually, Deloitte did a study recently that showed people are 3 times more likely to stay with a company where they feel a connection to their mission and to the way that they show up in the communities they serve. So again, you can do all the product marketing and, you can have a great experience. But if you're not a beloved brand and someone that, is showing up at, festivals that, like Global Citizen, for example, we sponsored this summer, and they're trying to, cure poverty, I mean, big things globally. That is who we want to be. We want to be there for our consumers, in the communities, as well as, and we're a global company. They have employees in those communities. So for them to be able to experience and see their company cares about the place they live is really, really important. So I would say that's something to, keep in mind as you're thinking as a communicator or marketer about, just the brand in general, really stepping back and saying, okay, of course, we're going to do the product promotion. Of course, we're going to do some really cool activations from a marketing perspective, but are we amplifying what the brand stands for and its social impact mission?
Amazing. So first, I want to say thank you to everyone for being here. I always say, I think sometimes the marketers and communicators are like the unsung heroes, because I'm sure you've all had to work really hard, whether you've got a booth here, you've had a zillion events, or working with media. I'm sure you all are both very exhausted, but also deserve a huge round of applause. So first, thank you for being here. We want to leave a little bit of time for you to network. It's probably a little bit of group therapy, so we hope you have a chance to introduce yourselves to each other, and have a chance to probably chat with Amy afterwards as well. There's some amazing programming happening on this stage, and we also have a number of our financial narrative members speaking on the Converge stage as well at 10 and 11. So again, thank you for being here, and we hope you have a chance to chat to one another for the next 10 minutes.